It's 1:30 a.m. The bass hits before the door even opens. Inside, the room is packed shoulder to shoulder, lights slicing through smoke, bodies moving like one organism. At the bar, a man raises 2 fingers, not for 2 drinks, for 2 bottles. The bill? Over $1,000. Somewhere across town, that same bottle sits on a liquor store shelf for a fraction of the price. So why did he just pay 10 times more for it, in a room he can't even hear himself think in? That's the question this story is really about. Because the drink isn't the product. The drink is the receipt. What he's actually paying for doesn't come in a bottle. It's access. It's attention. It's a few square feet of space in a room where space is the scarcest thing on earth tonight. And here's where it gets interesting, because the drinks might not even be where the real money is. Let's go behind the door nobody thinks to open. A bar sells drinks. That's the whole business. You walk in, you order, you leave. A nightclub sells something harder to name. A feeling, manufactured on purpose. The lighting is designed. The sound system is tuned to move air through your chest. The crowd is curated, sometimes literally, by who gets let in and who doesn't. None of that is free to build, and none of it fits on a receipt next to vodka soda. Here's the part most people never think about. A nightclub only has so much room. A fixed number of square feet, a fixed number of tables, a fixed number of hours before the sun comes up and the spell breaks. That's not a limitation. That's the entire business model. Because when a room can only hold so many people and everyone wants in, scarcity itself becomes something you can sell. Start at the door. Some clubs charge a cover. Some run guest lists. Some sell tickets to specific nights, specific DJs, specific moments that will never happen again. Every club does this differently. There's no single formula. But notice the contradictions sitting right there in plain sight. People are standing outside, in line, in the cold, waiting to get into a room that has empty space in it. That's not an accident. That's not incompetence. Controlling the door does something a cover charge alone never could. It makes the room feel valuable before you've even stepped inside it. Now think about the tables. A club only has so many of them, and if a table sits empty at 1 a.m. on a Saturday, that revenue is gone. Not delayed, gone. Tomorrow can't sell tonight's empty table. Economists have a word for this: perishable inventory. Airlines deal with it. An empty seat at takeoff is a seat that earns nothing, forever. Hotels deal with it too. An unsold room at midnight is unsold for good. Nightclubs live inside that same clock, which means the club isn't really selling bottles. It's selling a handful of irreplaceable hours before they vanish. This is where VIP tables change everything. Picture a club with 20 premium tables. If even a portion of those tables spend big on a strong night, the math of the entire room shifts. Not because everyone's spending a fortune, but because a small number of people are spending enough to carry the whole building. One customer buying a $20 drink is one transaction. One table, reserved for the night, minimum spend attached, can be worth more than 50 of those transactions combined. The club doesn't need everyone to spend like that. It just needs enough people who will, to change the economics of everyone else's night too. Which brings us to the price tag itself. Why does a drink cost so much more once it crosses that threshold from liquor store to nightclub? Because you're not buying the same thing anymore. You're buying the walk to the table, the bottle sparklers, the server who knows your name, the fact that 100 people just watched it arrive. High prices don't just cover costs. Sometimes they communicate something. This isn't the cheap section of the room, and you're not standing in it. That doesn't mean every overpriced drink is secretly brilliant marketing. Plenty of it is just markup. But the ones that work because the price is doing a job the liquid inside the bottle never could. The bottle is visible. The reason people buy it isn't. And that reason has a name: status. People don't spend money purely on logic. They spend it on how something makes them feel. Recognized, included, remembered. A table by the dance floor gives you visibility. A roped-off section gives you exclusivity. None of that is irrational. It's human. The club figured something out a long time ago. Once an experience becomes social, once other people are watching, the price stops being about the object entirely. You're not buying a drink anymore. You're buying a moment other people saw you have. But none of this works without real estate. Location decides almost everything. A club in the middle of an entertainment district, surrounded by hotels, tourists, restaurants, foot traffic, that's a different business than the same concept dropped somewhere quiet and hard to reach. And location cuts both ways. A prime address pulls in customers. It also comes with a rent bill big enough to swallow the whole night's earnings before the doors even open. The exact same nightclub, same music, same drink menu, wildly profitable in one zip code and barely surviving in another. Then there are the nights that aren't like other nights. Some clubs build entire calendars around events. A headlining DJ, a holiday blowout, a private buyout, a brand partnership that turns one Tuesday into the most talked about night of the month. Not every club runs this playbook, but the ones that do aren't selling the same experience on repeat. They're manufacturing new reasons to walk back through that door. And that door matters more than one night ever could. Because the hardest, most expensive thing in this business isn't getting someone inside once, it's getting them to come back. A customer who spends $100 tonight is one transaction. A customer who comes back every few weekends for the next 2 years is something else entirely. A relationship the business can build a forecast around. That's why the smartest rooms aren't just selling tonight. They're selling the idea of next weekend before this weekend is even over. Now here's the twist nobody puts in the highlight reel. Behind the lighting rig and the bottle service, there's a staff to pay, security to run, insurance premiums, licensing fees, sound equipment that breaks, credit card processing fees on every single swipe, marketing budgets, cleaning crews, and rent that doesn't care how good last Saturday was. A packed room looks like money. It isn't always. Revenue is what walks in the door. Profit is whatever's left after everything else takes its cut. And sometimes that number is a lot smaller than the crowd outside would ever guess. So, put it all together. Entry fees, drink sales, VIP tables, events, location, brand, loyalty, and underneath all of it, scarcity, working quietly in the background of every single decision. No one piece of that builds a business worth millions. The system does. Which brings us back to that bottle, the one sitting on the table at 1:30 a.m., condensation running down the glass, sparklers already burned out. At the start of this story, you saw alcohol. Now you see the table it's sitting on, the location the building occupies, the limited number of nights this room will ever have, the staff working the floor, the music engineered to move through your ribs, the version of status that only exists when other people are watching. You thought they were selling a bottle. They were selling the night. And the night disappears at sunrise. That's the real business, not liquor, time, space, scarcity, the feeling of being somewhere other people wish they were. The bottle gets opened, the music eventually stops, the lights come up, and the room empties out into the parking lot. But tomorrow night, the machine starts again. Because the real business of a nightclub was never selling drinks. It's turning a few hours of human attention, limited space, and desire into a business worth millions. If you owned a nightclub, where would you actually put your money? The drinks, the VIP tables, the events, or somewhere nobody's thinking to look? Drop your answer below.